All right, so our first question today, why do I miss so many shots that I know I should be making? I feel like I understand the game, but I still make unforced errors on routine balls. What are the biggest reasons players miss shots in pickleball? That is a phenomenal question, and it's such a good question that we actually decided to make an entire podcast on just this question. So what we're going to do today is we're going to have a top 5 list from me, from Elliott, in descending order. We'll give 5 first, then 4, 3, 2, 1. So just make sure you guys stick around to the end. You're going to want to stick around to the end because that's when we'll give our number 1 reason. Let's just jump into it. So my number 5 reason and why you miss easy pickleball shots and don't realize it is an erratic swing. Okay. So I see this a lot with my students. When the ball is coming to them, they rush their swing to the point where their backswing, their contact, and their follow through all happens in very rapid succession. And you're rushing through all 3 of those phases, and it really just kind of messes with getting all 3 of those phases correct if you're really going fast. And if you notice, when people hit slower balls like a drop or a dink, where they have a little bit more time to kind of progress through those stages, they hit those balls a lot more accurately than they hit a ball where they have to rush through. So my tip for that is you really need to slow down your swing, maybe start your swing a little bit early. That way you move through your backswing a little bit slower, and then you're still going to go through your contact and your follow through relatively quickly, right? But at least you're a little bit more fluid. And slow down. When the ball's coming to you, don't rush. The ball's not going anywhere. It's on your time. You have to hit it at some point, right? But a lot of people are hitting the pickleball like they're getting a 99-mile-per-hour fastball. Like they're just rushing through it. That ball's going relatively slow. So just breathe, take your time. And Elliott, why don't you go ahead and hit your 5th reason? But when we come back, I'll give people a little hack to actually slow that swing down and make their swing a little less erratic.
Yeah, my 5th reason is poor weight transfer. This is something that I've had to deal with for a long time in my pickleball journey. It's something I'm finally getting better now. But what I mean by that is a lot of people are leaning back, when they're hitting your a drive or a dink, and they're not transferring the weight correctly. So leaning backwards or standing flat-footed is really going to reduce consistency and make your timing really difficult. You really want to transfer your weight from your back foot to your front foot and then swing through the ball instead of leaning back. And there's other things that are going to help with this. But when you're out there, you're playing pickleball, you'll probably notice yourself leaning back while hitting it or hitting it on one foot. And that's just going to make for a really inconsistent shot all around.
Yeah, I definitely agree. A lot of people are on their heels when they hit. They need to be, you can go heel toe, but you need to end up transferring to the ball of your foot. That's really great. So my tip that I promised you guys to actually kind of, slow down that swing is to actually prep your paddle to hit. So actually go into your backswing before you actually need to hit the ball. So basically the idea is you're watching your opponent hit the ball. And as that ball is traveling toward you, as soon as you figure out it's on your forehand side, go ahead and just prep. Go ahead and get into your backswing and just wait for the ball to come. That allows you to get 50% of your swing correct. So 50% of your swing is your backswing, and the next 50% is contact and follow through. You've already got 50% of your swing correct. You don't have to erratically get there and erratically swing and get it all wrong. Get 50% correct. And then as the ball comes, wait on it, and then go through to contact and follow through. High-level tennis players do this. High-level pickleball players do this, and it really makes them a lot more consistent, and they hit their shots a lot more often than they would if they just rushed through the entire swing. All right, so let's hit our 4th biggest reason. So my number 4 reason is actually timing. So people are either hitting too early or too late. I really don't see people hitting too late most of the time. Most of the time the ball's coming to people, they freak out and think they got to hit it ASAP. So they're hitting the ball way too early. We definitely want to hit that ball on time. We want to hit that ball in our strike zone, which is something we'll talk about here in my reason number 3 in just a second. You want to hit that ball in the strike zone, and then you want to let the ball bounce and get up to its highest point, and that's called the apex. So that's when you need to hit the ball. You don't want to hit it when it's coming up. You don't want to hit it when it's coming down. You want to hit it right as it's at the apex, and you want to kind of breathe and let it come to you. Don't freak out when it's coming and just hit it early. Because if you hit it too early, you're actually going to hit the ball into the net. If you hit it too late, you're going to hit it high and out of bounds. If you hit it right on time, you're going to hit the shot that you want to hit 9 times out of 10, as long as the other parts of your mechanic are correct, right? But this is a major part of that. And I recently just found kind of a little bit of a hack to make sure that I'm on time and to let me know when I'm actually late or early. And it's actually hitting the top third of the paddle. I'd really encourage you guys to focus on this and go drill this. In tennis, they talk about hitting the top third of the racket. That allows the ball to kind of come down on the strings and create more spin. We do that in pickleball, but kind of for a different reason. It gives you great feedback. And yes, we do want the ball to kind of draw down the paddle if possible. But when you're hitting in that top third, A, you have a consistent strike point on the paddle every single time. B, it gives great feedback, like I mentioned. If you hit the bottom of that paddle and you can feel it, and over time, you'll be able to tell where you hit it on the paddle. Did you hit it in the top third? In the middle? Most people think you need to hit in the middle. You need to be hitting on the top third. Did you hit it on the bottom? You'll get that feedback over time and be able to figure that out. Also, hitting on the top third helps you get under the ball more. A lot of people are hitting the ball on the bottom of their paddle because they're not getting under the ball, and you need to get under the ball to hit well and hit topspin. So again, just to recap, if you'll hit the top third, pay attention to the feedback, you'll be able to tell whether you're hitting on time or not. When you focus on hitting in that top third, it honestly just forces you to be on time. It's really good. It might be the number one thing people can do to improve their drive. I'm a huge fan of it. All right, let's get into reason number 3, people miss their shots. Mine is based on something I see way too often, and that is hitting the ball too close to you. And if you contact the ball like that, you will likely miss your shot. I don't know why this is such a common problem. I never see people contact the ball too far out in front of them. And it's kind of the opposite of the reason for that we just went through. And again, the reason I see this so often, I think it's just bad habits. People, for whatever reason, just like the ball being closer to them. I'm thinking of a student I have in particular. And the reason this happens a lot also is just they want the ball to get closer, and it's just been ingrained over and over and over. It's just a really bad habit, but it feels more comfortable for people. A way you can tell that this is you is just a film. Okay, so film yourself playing. Notice if you're hitting the ball 2 to 3 feet out in front of you, or if you're hitting the ball like right beside your body. A lot of people use their shoulder a lot to hit. If you're using your shoulder a lot to hit, it's because possibly the ball's too close to you and you can't use your elbow and your wrist. It's an awkward place to use your elbow and your wrist. You have to use your shoulder. So that's a sign. And if you're doing this, you're losing power. But the most important thing is you're losing accuracy. And that's a major issue. All right, I'll give a drill to fix this in just a second. But E, you go ahead and go and give us your number 3 reason. Definitely excited to hear this.
Yeah, our number 3 is the exact same. So the contact point is you're hitting it too late. So I see this all the time, especially like even if we talk about like forehand rolls at the kitchen, like I see people at their hip hitting it here rather than out front. And I see the same thing with drives too, where it's just getting a little bit too, they're hitting it like on the side of their body or leaning back, like I said previously. And, you know, the reason for this, I'm not really sure. I think people tend to get like, it might feel awkward to like hit the ball way out in front and like you're stretching yourself. So it just feels good that it's closer to your body, but it's going to be really inconsistent. Yeah, you'll have some good shots. I guarantee like you'll make it work, but it won't be as effective as if it's a little bit out in front. So I always like to say like it has to be a little bit in front of your lead hip and you want your arm to be like comfortably extended, like not like full extended, but comfortably extended out in front of your lead hip and just drill that. Yeah, it might take 100, 200, 300 reps to get it down, but I guarantee you're going to have so much more power. You're going to have way more accuracy. You'll be able to place the ball where you want. Like, think about it. If you're hitting it on the side of your body, like the ball's just kind of going where the ball is going to go at that point. But if you're hitting the ball a little bit out in front of you, you'll be able to place it, you know, left side of the court, right side of the court, in the middle. Your drives are going to be so much more effective. Say you're hitting a drive to somebody square at their chest, but they love that area. So like, okay, let's just move to the left hip. You know, if you're hitting the ball to the side of you, you're really not going to be able to move it where you want, and you'll be able to adjust mid-game if it's out in front.
Yeah, and I think honestly, the truth is there's a natural place for you to hit a ball. Think about baseball. They don't hit it beside them. They don't hit it too far in front of them. There's just a natural place to hit the ball. And in racket sports, that natural place is just out in front of you. So, and you mentioned a drill, perfect timing. Okay. I promised a drill. Elliott, you brought it up. So this is one I've seen be very effective. Take a pickleball and put it in the armpit of your hitting arm. Okay. And you can't lose that pickleball. It's got to stay in there. Then extend your arm all the way out. Elliott said there needs to be a little bend in your elbow, and there does when you hit. But for this, we want to extend our arm all the way out. And wherever your arm extends out in front of you with that ball in your armpit, that is the perfect spot for you to be hitting the ball in pickleball. Okay. So what you need to do is take note of that and then start hitting drives, drill drives, and just get that contact point in front of you. And your balls are going to be way more accurate. All right, jumping to reason number 2, you're missing your shot in pickleball, and mine is an inconsistent strike point. So this is a little bit of what we talked about in reason 3, but it's kind of the opposite. We were talking about hitting the ball too close to you, but we're going to talk about the perfect spot to hit it, which we kind of teased in reason 2 or reason 3. This one is, you're hitting the ball too close to you, you're hitting the ball too far in front of you, or you're hitting the ball too inside or too far outside. And again, we teased this in reason 3. We said you need to be hitting out in front of you. And the reason people don't do this a lot is for 2 major reasons. The first is ball recognition, and the second is footwork. So let's break those down. Ball recognition is watching the ball off of your opponent's paddle and immediately trying to assess where that ball is going to get at its apex, and immediately trying to assess where that ball is going to bounce up to its apex at. And so that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to project the bounce and the apex. And then from there, you want to use our second discipline we talked about just a second ago, footwork. You want to use your feet to move yourself to that spot where it would actually be, remember the ball in the armpit and you're out, where that ball at its apex would be in that spot where your paddle is. And that's how you can generate a consistent strike point. And I would say the major issue there is just ball recognition, because what you have to do is you have to use your eyes, then you have to use your brain to project based on what you're seeing. Is the ball high? Is it coming fast? To project where you think that ball is going to bounce up to its apex at. Okay. The footwork part of that can be an issue for people, but people are way more likely to get that correct than they are to get the ball recognition. Ball recognition is a really, really important skill, and it's difficult to get down, and you need to start practicing it now. And Elliott, after you go here and give us your second reason, I'll give us a couple of drills that can help with that. But why don't you go and take it away?
So I really had 6 reasons. So I kind of clumped number 2 with like 2 things, but I think they definitely correlate. It's swinging too hard and then using just your arm. Let's just say to hit a forehand drive. Now, I definitely recommend the 70% rule if no one's ever heard of it. Basically, it's using 70% of the power that you would normally use. So if you have 100%, like swinging as hard as you can, dial it down 30%. We really like our goal with forehand drives is really not to hit winners. Now, if we
Right.
see the middle of the court is open, or we see somebody, creeping in the middle of the court, trying to poach a lot, and then you can get it down the line, like, great, like, let's hit a winner. Our goal with a forehand drive is literally to get, a nice 5th shot. And that's really it. We either want to pop up, or we want like an easy 5th, like mid court, so you can get to the kitchen easily and start thinking. So I really highly recommend not using your arm, because it starts with your legs and then, rotating your hips. And then you're going to get a lot more power. And then really just dialing it down to a 70% shot. And that will greatly, greatly help your pickleball game.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. That's so true. So yeah, going to the drill that I told you I would give you guys. Here's how to get better at ball recognition. Okay, we're going to go back to that ball in the armpit. We're going to extend out like we talked about in reason number 3. And we are going to just keep our paddle out there. All right. And then we are going to have either a ball machine or a partner hit us balls. And we're not going to swing. Okay, that's why the ball in the armpit's there. It can't drop out. And so if you try and swing at the ball, it's going to drop out. But as your partner or the ball machine is hitting balls to you, you are going to have that paddle extended, and you are going to use your feet. You're going to project where that ball will bounce up to its apex at, you're going to move your feet into that spot and just let the ball hit your paddle. Basically, the paddle is going to catch it. And that's going to represent, if you can do that successfully, you getting that ball in your strike zone every single time in that perfect spot to where you're not hitting too far on front, too far behind, too inside, or too outside. That's a perfect drill to be able to fix and to work on ball recognition and your footwork. Now for the finale, the number one reason you're missing shots in pickleball is, drumroll please, mine is no repeatable swing. So I think this is absolutely huge. If you heard nothing else on this podcast, which you should have because we gave you a ton of reasons and they're all so good. But if you hear nothing else, hear this. You need a repeatable swing. Everything in your body needs a roll. Your wrist needs to do something every single time. Your elbow, your shoulder, your legs, your core, your hips, your offhand, they all have a specific role and they need to do that role every single time. Okay. Mishits happen when you're doing something different every single time. Your wrist does something different this shot than it did the last shot, or your elbow's doing something different. If you can get it to do something every single time, you're going to hit way more consistent balls. And then there's also times where like 5 out of the 6 things, like maybe your elbow does the right thing or your shoulder or your wrist or your legs, but your offhand did something wrong or your weight transfer wasn't quite correct. Those are going to cause mishits. So you need a repeatable swing every single time. And then part of that is most people don't know what these parts should be doing. Obviously, that's a major issue. But if you can get every single part of your body to have a role, the same role, every single time you hit the ball, you're going to hit incredibly, incredibly accurate balls. It's just about making that happen and knowing what those roles should be for those parts of your body. And Elliott, after you reveal your number one reason, I'll come back and explain how to actually give everything a role.
Yes, that's a great reason that you just talked about. I always like to say it's better to have repeatable processes. So if you can repeat the same thing over and over again, you're going to get very similar results. Now, my number one thing is really bad footwork and really bad positioning. Now, what's funny about this one is if you don't have this, you're already basically mishitting the ball before you actually hit the ball. So you're really not setting yourself up for success. Now,
Yeah.
and this just all goes to like if you're reaching for the ball or you're not moving your feet, you're going to make off center contact with the ball and it is just going to go in the net. It's going to go out. So you really need to prepare for the shot. And that happens with your footwork and that happens with your positioning. Like I like when I see a ball come to me, I'm not hitting last minute. And that's going to prevent you with one of our other reasons is hitting the ball too late. My paddle's out in front. I've already split stepped. I'm already positioning to where I think the ball is kind of coming. If I need to make a last minute adjustment, I will. I'm getting low. I'm bending my knees and then I'm doing my weight transfer. All the things we just discussed leading up to this number one. If you don't have good footwork and good positioning, all these other things that we discussed are going to be extremely difficult. So that's the number one thing I would focus on moving forward. If you're like, these are all great tips, where do I go from here? Start with your footwork, start with your positioning, move your feet early, and get your body behind the ball whenever possible. If you start there, some of these other things will definitely start falling into place.
Yeah, great tip. I told you guys that I would give you a fix for not having a repeatable swing. That fix is going to be hitting topspin. Okay, so we're not hitting topspin for the sake of topspin. Also, when I say that a lot, people kind of freeze because either they've tried topspin before or they think it's really difficult. It's really not. You just need a good teacher. There's not a lot out there. But if you hit topspin, everything has a role. In topspin, your wrist has a role. It does the same thing every single time. That's true for your elbow, your shoulder, your legs, your hips, your core, your offhand. Everything has a role. You can repeat that swing every single time, and you're going to be way more accurate than you are currently. So how can you learn topspin? The first thing I'll tell you, the free way is YouTube, right? Like you can go to YouTube. I also wouldn't just look for stuff on pickleball. I'd probably go to tennis. The tennis swing is going to be the exact same swing, except for a couple of small things, which drop a comment and I'll tell you more about those. I'll expand more. But like hitting all the way through the ball isn't necessarily the same in pickleball. Your backswing height can be different, but Mostly it's all, I'd say 95% of it's all the same. So maybe go look at tennis topspin tutorials as well, because they're going to flesh that idea out a lot better than probably pickleball would. But I'd say the number one way to learn is, of course, the lab. You can go to pickleball.lab.co, and we have a lesson and we have a course just on topspin and ball accuracy. All right, so obviously you and I do have different number one reasons. Tell me why you think it's more important to have footwork than it is to maybe get like a repeatable swing. Not that both aren't important. I just want to hear you defend it. You want me to go first? I can go first.
No, I mean, I think they're both really good tips. But if I was just starting out or I had an inconsistent drive, like I don't have a repeatable process yet. And I think a part
Okay.
of a repeatable process is having your footwork done. And that might be the first step in a repeatable process. I think people are jumping too early and like, they're trying to do all these things at once and they're not like taking their time and actually building out a process. So
Mhm.
that's why footwork was my number one, because it leads to a repeatable process. But you really have to get ready and set for the ball before you know, you just start trying to, because we can, I like repeatable processes, but there's a lot of people out there that have repeatable processes that are failing them every single day,
Mhm.
and they're doing the wrong things. They're doing it every
Okay.
time, but they're just doing the wrong things.
That's fair. And then, like, to expand on that, like you're talking about footwork, really what we're talking about is what we were talking about earlier, right? Ball recognition and then moving your feet and getting in the right spot so the ball's in your strike zone. I think I could also defend that a little bit and say that might be a little easier for some people. Just be like, hey, you've got to hit the ball in this spot every single time. And if you do, things will go a lot better. And it fixes a lot. And that might be an easier first step. The top spin, I think it's still easy, but it's easy if it's taught well. And if it's not taught well, it can be difficult. And if it's not taught in a progression, like we do that in the lab, we talk about it in a progression where skills build on each other. But if you don't do that, that's tough. Not to mention our fourth lesson on topspin is neutral stance, which is footwork. So I agree with it to an extent. I just see so many people not know what to do with their swing, right? And it's things are just doing something different every single time. And I feel like if you give everything a roll, that's the quickest way to fix it. But I will say that hitting an accurate ball comes down to two things: your swing mechanic and your footwork. And so technically, I guess we nailed it because I gave the swing mechanic portion of the number one reason. You gave the footwork portion of the number one reason. So, yeah, I just wanted to hear you defended it really well. You defended your thesis. We'll give you a PhD in that. Really well done. But yeah, so two sides of probably the same coin there. I got a little secret. I didn't tell Elliott I was going to do this. It's a little bonus reason. I call it reason zero. And I actually think it's bigger than all five of our top five lists, but I just didn't include it because it's just abstract and not exactly in the spirit. But my reason zero is nobody is teaching people how to hit a good shot in pickleball, and I do not understand it. If you go to YouTube, the tennis homepage for YouTube, where it has all the tennis videos, they are showing something completely different than the pickleball homepage on YouTube. And that's a good indication because that's what people are actually looking for and searching. So if you go to the pickleball one, it's got how to hit a backhand flick, how to hit a forehand roll, why you're losing volleys, like all these different things. If you go to the YouTube tennis homepage, all it is about hitting forehands. Why? Because being able to hit a forehand is the core mechanic in racket sports, in pickleball and tennis. How you hit the forehand is how you'll hit is the basis and the foundation of how you'll hit every other shot. It's like teaching someone to play basketball without teaching them how to shoot a basketball. Shooting a basketball is the core mechanic. The core mechanic in pickleball is being able to hit a good forehand. And so I don't know why no one is talking about this. And it drives me crazy because this really gets into the core concept of the four ball strategy. If you can get good at the first four balls, you're going to kill it in pickleball. You're going to rise higher than your level so much faster than you are right now. And you can leave a comment. I can talk to you guys more about that and expand on. I'm not going to do it right here. Elliott, what do you think about that? One, do you think that's true that people aren't teaching that? Am I wrong? I'd love to be wrong. Tell me if I am. Two, if you think I'm correct, why do you think it's like that?
That's a good point. I mean, I grew up playing tennis. I played tennis for 12 years,
Right.
and all we did was drill forehands and drill backhands. I mean,
Right.
yeah, we volleyed and did a bunch of serves. Like, you have to have a strong serve. You have to have good forehand, good backhand, good footwork. Yeah, volleys and overheads, great, but like you don't hit that as much. I think in pickleball, you're at the kitchen. At least once you get above 4-5, even 5-0, like you're at the kitchen more. At the 2-5 to 3-5 level, you're probably staying back on the baseline. So, I think maybe the pickleball community is marketing these fancy shots, like kitchen shots, when, a lot of the
You
average
never use
players
them.
aren't really using that. Right.
Never
So
use them.
I think it's great. I mean, the reason why I came into the sport, like probably like a 3-5, 3-8, is because I drilled tennis for 12 years.
Exactly.
And I was able to use the forehand drive and just apply it to all my other shots, forehand rolls, dinking, things like that. So, I mean, I think it's a great tip. I think if you dial that in and you focus on your drives, like everything else kind of falls into place.
I agree, because it's the core mechanic. What are you going to do on your serve? It's a drive. What are you going to do on your return? It's a drive.
Yeah.
Your third shot can be a drive. Even if you hit a drop, if you hit it with your forehand, it is a slower drive, right? Like it's still the same forehand mechanic. On your fourth, when you volley, it's a drive. A speed up is a drive.
Right.
Like it drives me insane, because like I have students come to me, and you said you started out basically at a 3-5, 3-8. If you're listening to this podcast and you want to get to a 3-5 or a 3-8 or 4-0 or higher, you just heard from the horse's mouth why he started at that level, and it's because he knew how to hit a forehand. Okay, so that's my soapbox. I'll jump off. We'll go ahead and end the podcast right there. But I'm serious, guys. If you want to hack for jumping levels, you need to learn how to hit accurate balls and how to hit topspin to have a repeatable process. And then also your footwork, ball recognition, all the things we talked about today. So that's it for this edition of the podcast. As always, do us a huge favor. Choose one of the following three things: like, subscribe, or leave a review of our podcast on Spotify or Apple. It helps us out tremendously. Seriously, guys. You don't understand how much it helps us. Also, check out the lab if you're interested at pickleball.lab.co. And finally, watch another one of our podcast episodes. That actually helps us out a ton. The YouTube algorithm, Spotify algorithm. If you watch this episode, then watch another one. It just pushes our content so hard. And if you're on YouTube, you can do that by clicking the top left of the screen right here. And for Elliott and I, we'll see you the next time on the next podcast.